Elon Musk saves Donald Trump from explosion. The scene was chaotic, the kind of chaos that could only be described as something straight out of a high-stakes action movie. The air was thick with smoke, debris swirling in the air like confetti after an explosion. The city's skyline loomed in the background, but in the foreground, nothing was as it seemed. Donald Trump stood in the middle of a high-rise district, his back to a row of shattered windows. He was surrounded by a group of his closest advisors and security personnel, but the calm of the moment would soon evaporate. The tension was palpable. Trump had just finished giving a public speech about the country's progress, but something had gone terribly wrong. The emergency sirens screamed through the city streets, barely audible over the sudden explosion that rang out like a shockwave, rattling the ground beneath them. It wasn't just any explosion. It was the kind of blast that had the potential to shake the entire city to its core. And it was happening right beneath Trump's feet. As the explosion erupted, flames leaped up, a fiery tidal wave of destruction that threatened to engulf everything in its path. The security team scrambled to shield the president, but the flames were moving too fast. The glass shattered as a barrage of debris rained down from above, scattering across the street like shrapnel. In that critical moment, when everyone seemed paralyzed by the enormity of the blast, one man broke through the chaos. Elon Musk had been miles away, attending a private meeting at his company's headquarters. He was checking the latest progress on the new electric vehicle model when he received the call. His phone buzzed, the screen flashing an urgent message. Security team, President Trump's location compromised. Immediate evacuation needed. Explosions confirmed. Musk's brow furrowed. He was used to fast-paced decisions, used to crises, but this was something entirely different. There was no hesitation in his mind. He knew what needed to be done. Without a second thought, he activated his personal jet's autopilot system, instructing it to take him directly to the heart of the city. As he boarded the craft, his mind raced, not just for the life of Donald Trump, but for everyone in the area who could be caught in the blast radius. Back on the ground, the scene was utter chaos. The blast had left people disoriented, their hearing muffled by the shockwaves. People were running in every direction, trying to find shelter or get help. Trump, still in the middle of it all, had been knocked to the ground by the force of the explosion. His security team scrambled to protect him, but their efforts were futile. The fire spread quickly, and the smoke began to thicken, choking the air and blurring their vision. Trump, shouting, "Get me out of here now." But as Trump struggled to rise from the debris, another explosion rocked the ground beneath him. The shockwave sent him tumbling to the ground, his suit tattered and his face stained with ash. He struggled to regain his footing, but the scene around him was becoming more and more dangerous by the second. That's when it happened. A figure appeared from the haze of smoke and dust, a shadow at first, but soon becoming clearer. The figure was moving with purpose, the stride unmistakable. Elon Musk had arrived. In a matter of moments, Musk was at Trump's side. Without hesitation, he reached down and scooped Trump up in his arms, his strength surprising even the former president. Musk's face was set with determination, his eyes scanning the chaos around them, searching for the quickest route to safety. Musk, gritting his teeth as he carried Trump, "Stay with me, Mr. President. I've got you." Trump, dazed and still struggling to comprehend the scale of what was happening, looked up at Musk, his breath coming in short gasps. Trump accused, "What the hell is going on here? How did you?" Musk, cutting him off, "No time for that, sir. We need to get out of here. Trust me, we'll talk later." Musk was surprisingly agile as he navigated through the wreckage. His mind was focused, zeroing in on the one thing that mattered, getting Trump to safety. He knew that if they didn't move fast, the situation would only escalate. Around them, the city was in chaos. Emergency vehicles were already en route, but Musk wasn't about to wait for help. As they rounded a corner, Musk spotted his sleek, black Tesla Model X waiting for them, its doors already open, the driver standing by. Musk, shouting to the driver, "Get ready to move now." The driver, a seasoned professional, didn't need to be told twice. He jumped into the driver's seat as Musk approached the vehicle, still holding Trump. He carefully placed him inside, strapping him in securely before sliding into the passenger seat himself. Without a word, the driver gunned the engine, speeding away from the explosion zone. The car raced down the streets, weaving between abandoned vehicles and emergency response units. Musk's eyes were constantly darting between the road and the rearview mirror, ensuring no more dangers were lurking behind them. Trump, still trying to collect himself, what the hell is going on? I've never seen anything like that. Musk glanced over, his expression calm but serious. He was aware of the gravity of the situation. He'd never been involved in something like this before, but he wasn't going to let fear take over. Musk calmly, I don't know yet, but it's big. We'll find out soon enough. The important thing is that you're safe. Trump's mind raced, trying to make sense of the situation. It wasn't just the explosion, it was the fact that Musk had managed to get to him in time. He knew it wasn't just luck. Trump, gripping the seat, I never thought I'd see the day where you'd be saving my life. How'd you get here so fast? Musk let out a small, almost imperceptible laugh. He could sense the tension easing off of Trump, but the seriousness of the situation was still clear. The city was in crisis, and whatever had caused this attack wasn't over yet. Musk, with a small smile, well, Mr. President, I tend to move fast. And when I heard about the explosions, I made sure to be here before it got any worse. Trump leaned back in his seat, still a little dazed, but grateful. For all his bravado and confidence, he had just realized that without Musk's timely intervention, he might not have made it out. He looked over at the tech mogul, a mix of admiration and disbelief in his eyes. Trump, finally, you're something else, Musk. You just might be the only person who could have saved me today. Musk, glancing at him with a sly smile, don't get used to it, Mr. President. But I'll take the credit this time. The Model X sped through the city, making sharp turns as they raced away from the chaos. As the distance grew between them and the danger, Musk allowed himself a brief moment of relief, but he knew it wasn't over. Whatever had caused the explosions, it was far from over. Minutes later, they reached a secure facility. The gates opened as they approached, allowing the car to drive inside. Musk's private security detail had already mobilized, ready to protect both him and the president. They parked in a designated area, and as the doors of the vehicle opened, armed guards quickly surrounded the car. Trump stepped out, still in a bit of shock, and looked over at Musk. Trump, more serious now, we need to get to the bottom of this, Elon. Whatever this was, it's not just a random attack. This was planned. We're in danger. Musk nodded, his face now grave as the reality of the situation settled in. The explosion was no accident. It was a message. And someone wanted to make a statement. The only question was, who? Musk, determined, we will, Mr. President. We'll figure this out. Inside the secure facility, the team of experts immediately went to work, reviewing video footage from the blast site, gathering intelligence, and coordinating with law enforcement. It wasn't long before they had a clearer picture of the scope of the threat. Inside the secure facility, the air was tense. A team of analysts, cybersecurity experts, and security personnel gathered around a massive table covered with screens, each showing different angles of the explosion site. The lights overhead flickered slightly as the sound of typing and hushed conversations filled the room. Musk, standing by the table with arms crossed, was lost in thought. He had always prided himself on his ability to think quickly under pressure, but this felt different. He glanced over at Trump, who was pacing, his usual confidence now replaced by an intensity that reflected the gravity of the situation. It was rare for the former president to be so visibly unsettled, but the explosion had shaken him to his core. He could feel the weight of the threat looming just out of sight. Trump, stopping his pacing, looking at Musk, we need answers, and we need them now. This wasn't some random attack. Someone's sending a message. Musk, nodding, his voice low and focused, I agree. I've seen enough chaos to know that this isn't just a random bombing. It's calculated. And whoever did this has access to resources we can't even imagine. The room fell silent as a security officer entered with a tablet in hand. The officer approached the table and handed the device to Musk, who quickly scanned the data on the screen. Security officer, urgently, we've managed to decrypt some of the communications. It looks like this wasn't a coordinated strike by a local group, it's global. There's a network involved, and they've been monitoring high-profile figures for weeks. Musk's brow furrowed. Global. That changed everything. The thought of a coordinated attack from an international network was alarming, but he wasn't surprised. After all, his own ventures, SpaceX, Tesla, had made him a target for people with the means to disrupt things on a global scale. But what did this mean for Trump? Musk? Carefully, who's behind this? Who are we talking about here? The officer hesitated for a moment, then turned the tablet toward Trump, showing a series of coded messages and fragmented communications from a shadowy group. Their messages were veiled, but it was clear. They were making demands, threatening action unless their terms were met. The phrases were chilling, but even more unsettling was the word pawns, mentioned multiple times, referring to influential people around the world. Security officer, grimly, "It looks like we're the pawns, Mr. President. Whoever these people are, they're using high-profile individuals like you and Mr. Musk to send a message. Their goal is destabilization, control through fear." Trump's gaze hardened, and Musk could see his mind processing the information. Trump was many things: outspoken, brash, a media lightning rod, but he was also a fighter. Musk knew that whatever this was, Trump would not back down. They were in this together now. Trump, clenching his jaw, "So, we're dealing with a global power play, huh? These people think they can control us with fear. Well, they've got another thing coming." Musk turned toward the wall of screens, which were now showing footage of the explosion from different angles. He studied the visuals, his mind working through the variables. The explosion had been massive, and though the damage had been significant, it hadn't been a total loss. The target had been Trump, but why? What was the ultimate goal? Hours later, after scouring more intelligence, a breakthrough came. One of the analysts, a young woman who had been working tirelessly at her station, flagged something on one of the security cameras. She rewound the footage to a moment just before the explosion. Something wasn't right. As she zoomed in, her fingers flew across the screen, slowing down the footage, focusing on a figure lurking in the shadows, just outside of the building where the explosion had originated. Analyst, excited, this is it. The person in the corner, just before the explosion. We got a clear shot of them. The figure was wearing a large, dark hoodie, their face obscured, but the analyst's sharp eyes could see the distinctive badge on the person's jacket, something that didn't belong in this area. A logo that had been traced to an underground tech company, a company with ties to various international black markets. Musk and Trump exchanged a look, both immediately recognizing the gravity of the discovery. Musk, stepping forward, pointing to the screen, "That logo, it's from one of the companies I've been tracking. They've been involved in shady dealings, offering tech solutions to authoritarian regimes." Trump's eyes narrowed as he processed the new information. It all seemed to tie together in a way that felt too orchestrated to be a coincidence. Trump, gritting his teeth, "So, this was planned. This wasn't some rogue attack. Someone with power, with influence, is behind this. They've been waiting for the right moment to make their move." Musk, nodding, "Exactly. They've been building a network, quietly infiltrating key industries, gathering intel, and waiting for the right target. It's more than just the explosion. It's a warning." As the investigation into the attack deepened, the following days were spent tracking down every lead, examining every connection. Musk's own team worked tirelessly, tapping into his vast technological resources to trace the origin of the attack and find out who was pulling the strings. He wasn't about to let anyone harm Trump, especially when it was clear that this was part of a larger scheme. Meanwhile, Trump's security detail had been expanded. New precautions were put in place to safeguard both Musk and the former president, but they all knew it wasn't enough. This group, this shadowy force, had already proven they could bypass even the most advanced systems. It would take more than just technology and firewalls to stop them. Trump, during a briefing with security officers, "We need to go on the offensive. We're not just sitting ducks here. These people are trying to send a message, but they don't realize who they're messing with." Musk nodded, his mind working on a solution. This wasn't just about responding to an attack, it was about dismantling the infrastructure of the group behind it. Musk had the tools, the resources, and the intellect to do it, but it would take more than just brute force. It would require strategy, precision, and understanding the enemy's next move. The next day, as Musk was reviewing some encrypted files sent by his cybersecurity team, a secure video call came through. It was from Trump, his face illuminated by the glow of his desk lamp. Trump, grinning as he leaned into the screen, "I've been thinking, Musk. You're the one who's always talking about the future. How about we put that tech of yours to good use and fight fire with fire?" Musk raised an eyebrow. He had a hunch about where this conversation was heading, and it didn't surprise him. Trump had a way of using challenges as opportunities. He was already thinking about the next steps, ready to turn the tables on those who had targeted him. Musk, leaning in slightly, "What do you have in mind?" Trump, with a sharp glint in his eye, "We've got the tech, the firepower, and the resolve. What if we could take the fight directly to them? Go on the offensive. Get ahead of their next move." Musk sat back, considering the idea. It was risky, but in a world where the line between allies and enemies blurred, it was a game-changing move. The idea of using advanced tech, drones, AI-driven surveillance, and cyber warfare tools to trace and dismantle the group's operations had appeal. The sooner they found out who was pulling the strings, the sooner they could stop the next wave of attacks. "Musk, seriously, it's a bold move. But it might be our only option. We go after their infrastructure, disrupt their operations before they can strike again. It's not going to be easy, but if we play it right, we can take control." Trump, nodding, "Exactly. It's time to take the gloves off. Let's show them they picked the wrong targets." The next few days were spent preparing for the offensive. Musk leveraged his technological prowess to create a custom plan using drones, AI-powered cybersecurity algorithms, and advanced satellite imaging to track the group's activities. Trump, for his part, ensured that political support and military cooperation were aligned, gathering the necessary resources to back up the operation. They were about to take the fight to those who thought they could control the narrative, disrupt the system, and instill fear in those who served in public office. But this time, it wasn't just about retaliation. It was about proving a point. America would not be intimidated. And with Musk's technology and Trump's unyielding resolve, they were about to make a statement the world wouldn't forget. The operation had begun, and both Musk and Trump were fully committed to it. Every resource at their disposal was being utilized, from Musk's cutting-edge technology to Trump's political leverage. The team that had come together was formidable, a mix of elite military personnel, high-level intelligence officers, and top-tier tech specialists from Musk's network. It was a joint effort, one where every individual played a crucial role in ensuring their strategy succeeded. Musk's tech team, working from underground bunkers and safe houses, had begun to set up a massive cyber operation. Their mission: infiltrate and dismantle the group's digital network, track their movements, and neutralize their infrastructure before they could strike again. Musk wasn't a stranger to cyber warfare. His companies had often faced technological threats, and he had built up a reputation for being able to outsmart those who underestimated him. Meanwhile, Trump had begun working with his political allies and military contacts. He had always been a master at negotiation, and now he was using that skill to ensure that the full weight of the United States government would be brought to bear. The group behind the attack had shown that they could strike anywhere at any time, and the stakes couldn't have been higher. Musk sat in his secure office, his eyes scanning multiple monitors that displayed encrypted communications, satellite imagery, and drone footage. The walls were lined with data-driven maps of the city, constantly updating with new information. He was like a commander in the midst of a digital battlefield, and the pieces of the puzzle were slowly starting to fall into place. Musk, grumbling to himself as he typed furiously on his keyboard, come on, where are you hiding?" He had spent hours trying to decipher the encrypted messages that had been uncovered in the aftermath of the explosion. The more he dug, the more he realized that this wasn't some small-time operation. Whoever was behind this had a vast, far-reaching network, and they weren't acting alone. There were too many players involved, too many layers to peel away. But Musk had never backed down from a challenge, and this one would be no different. His phone buzzed on the desk, a quick text message flashing across the screen. It was from one of his top cybersecurity operatives. "Cybersec team, we've identified one of the central hubs. Looks like it's an encrypted server in Geneva. We've tracked multiple data packets coming from it. Musk's eyes widened as he read the message. Geneva. The city was known for being a hub of international diplomacy, finance, and, more importantly, covert operations. If the group behind the explosion had a server there, it was a sign of how deep their roots ran. Musk knew that this wasn't just an isolated attack. This was part of something much larger. He quickly stood up, calling Trump on the secure line. Trump, answering immediately, his voice gruff. Musk, what's the news? Musk, leaning over his desk, voice urgent. We've got a lead. One of the central hubs for this operation is in Geneva. There's an encrypted server there that's been sending out data, probably intel on us, our movements. This is bigger than we thought. We need to move fast. Trump, pausing for a moment, Geneva? That's international territory, Musk. You're talking about the heart of global diplomacy. We're dealing with something far more dangerous than we anticipated. Musk, nodding, eyes narrowed, I know. But if we can get our hands on that server, we can unravel this entire network. We've got the resources to infiltrate it, but we need to move quickly before they shut it down. Trump, in his typical no-nonsense manner, all right, I'll activate the military contacts in Europe. Get them on standby. I'll have a word with our allies. This has to be handled quietly, no public interference. Musk, speaking with determination, will get it done. Don't worry. The call ended, and Musk immediately got to work. He knew Geneva was a delicate situation, too many international players with their own interests. But if he could just get access to that server, everything would change. He tapped into his satellite network, coordinating with his team in Europe. They would need to be in and out, no mistakes, no delays. Back in Washington, Trump was already on the phone with his military advisors, making preparations for the next phase of the operation. He knew that the success of the mission hinged on two things: speed and discretion. The world couldn't know that they were hunting down a shadowy global network. If word got out, it could create international chaos, potentially igniting a conflict that no one wanted. Trump, on the phone, voice firm, we need air support over Geneva. Drones, satellites, whatever we can get. I want a full perimeter around that area. And get in touch with the Swiss government. We need their cooperation, but we're doing this either way. Make sure they understand the urgency. Military advisor, on the other end of the line, understood, sir. We'll coordinate with our allies in the region and get the assets in place. Trump, gritting his teeth, this isn't just a tech issue. It's a threat to national security. Move fast. Let's make sure they don't see us coming. Hours later, as Musk's team in Europe began to take their positions, the tension grew. They had pinpointed the exact location of the server, but the real challenge was breaching the facility undetected. Geneva was a hotspot for diplomacy, and any unauthorized intrusion could lead to international consequences. Musk had set up a secure command center in one of his private locations, tracking every movement and coordinating with his team on the ground. His drones had already scanned the area around the facility, sending back real-time footage of the building's layout and security measures. It wasn't just a matter of bypassing firewalls and security protocols. It was about getting close enough to the target without triggering alarms. As the hours ticked by, the team on the ground in Geneva was in position. Musk leaned forward, his eyes glued to the screens as the operation commenced. He had to trust his team. They were skilled, trained for this type of covert mission. But still, he felt a certain weight on his shoulders. The risks were high, and the stakes were even higher. Musk, to his team on the ground, speaking through a secure communication line, "You're in. Stay focused. No mistakes." Back in Washington, Trump was preparing to make a public statement. The political landscape was shifting, and the pressure was mounting. If the operation in Geneva was successful, it would send a powerful message to whoever was behind the attacks. No one could threaten the president or the nation with impunity. He stood in front of the cameras, his face resolute, his stance confident. Trump, addressing the press, voice commanding, as of today, we are taking decisive action against those who seek to destabilize our great nation. We will not allow terrorism or covert attacks to go unanswered. The full force of the United States government is working tirelessly to uncover the perpetrators behind these recent explosions and ensure that they face justice. We will do whatever it takes to protect our citizens, our allies, and our way of life. The press room fell silent, the weight of his words sinking in. Trump had made it clear that there would be no negotiation, no compromise. Whoever had orchestrated this attack had made a grave mistake, and they would pay for it. Back in Geneva, the team had breached the facility. Musk's drones hovered overhead, providing a constant stream of data as the team made their way through the building's secure corridors. The server was just ahead, but there was no room for error. Musk, speaking through his headset to the team, "You're almost there. Get to the server and retrieve everything. Don't engage unless absolutely necessary." The tension was palpable as the team reached the server room. With a swift motion, they bypassed the final layer of security, and the door to the room slid open. The hum of the equipment was the only sound in the otherwise silent corridor. The team moved quickly, pulling data drives from the server and securing them for extraction. But as they worked, a soft beep echoed through the room. "Team member, urgently, we've got a problem. They're aware we're here. The alarm's been triggered." Musk's heart rate spiked as he processed the information. Musk, speaking quickly, "Get out now. Get the data and move. I'll keep the drone surveillance active." The operation was turning into a race against time. Musk could hear the urgency in his team's voices as they made their way back to the exit. The stakes had never been higher. In moments like this, there was no room for second chances. The security alert had gone off in the building, but Musk's team was already on the move. They could hear the echo of footsteps coming closer, the sound of boots hitting the polished floor as guards rushed toward the server room. The team worked faster, their movements sharp and coordinated, but there was no denying the pressure mounting. "Team member, urgently, we've got 15 seconds before they breach the room. Data extraction is complete. We need to go now." Musk's heart was racing. His hands gripped the edge of the desk as he watched the drone footage feed on his screen. The team was seconds away from getting out, but the path was anything but clear. The facility was well protected. He knew that much from the satellite scans, but now the situation was escalating. Musk, calmly, but with intensity, head for the east exit. It's the quickest route out. I'll disable their communication grid to buy you some time. Stay sharp. He tapped a few keys on his terminal, sending out a burst of code designed to disrupt the facility's communications. For a moment, the screens flickered, and the network around the building began to shut down, giving the team a slight edge. With every passing second, they were closer to escaping the compound, but their window of opportunity was closing fast. In the heart of Washington, Trump was preparing for a critical step in the mission. He had just finished speaking with his top military advisors, who were all in agreement. It was time to escalate the operation. The data Musk's team was retrieving could be the key to dismantling the shadowy global network behind the attacks. The intelligence gathered in Geneva had to be processed quickly, but there was a far more immediate concern: getting the operatives out safely. Trump turned to his communications director, his expression firm. "Trump, commanding, get our European allies on the line. We need military extraction teams ready for immediate deployment in Geneva. Musk's team has the data, but they're still at risk. We can't afford a delay." Communications director, nodding quickly, "Right away, sir. I'll get them on it." Trump watched as the room buzzed with activity, the team moving swiftly to make calls and coordinate the operation. As always, time was the enemy. But Trump had made it clear, this operation was no longer just about gathering information. It was about sending a message to those who thought they could destabilize the country. It was about taking control of the narrative and ensuring that no one got away with trying to undermine the United States. Back in Geneva, the extraction was underway. The team had secured the data, but now it was all about escape. The exit wasn't far, but the closer they got to their extraction point, the heavier the atmosphere became. Musk could feel the urgency building from his position in the command center, eyes locked on the screens as they tracked the team's movements. The building's security had gone on high alert. Guards were everywhere, and the exit route wasn't as clear as it had been before. They were surrounded. "Team member, panting, breathless, we're going to have to move fast." There are more guards between us and the exit now. The east exit is blocked. Musk's mind raced. The plan was simple enough, but this new wrinkle could derail everything. He could already hear the sounds of security teams coming closer, their footsteps echoing in the hallways. The team would have to fight their way out if they were going to make it in time. Musk, narrowing his eyes, voice steady, "Don't engage unless you have to. Use the ventilation ducts. It'll get you through the rear corridor. Take the emergency stairwell out. I've got your escape route covered. Go now." The team moved with precision, darting into the ventilation shaft just as a group of armed guards turned the corner. They crawled through the narrow ducts, moving swiftly, their minds focused on the exit. Musk's plan had been solid, but there was no room for error now. They were running out of time. Every second that passed increased the risk of them being caught. Back in Washington, the military extraction teams were in position. Elite forces from several countries had been mobilized, standing by to assist in the operation. Trump's administration had brokered the cooperation of key European allies, ensuring that the mission would have the backing it needed to avoid diplomatic fallout. As Trump sat in his private office, the sound of helicopters and military vehicles arriving in Geneva echoed through the secure communications channel. He was receiving constant updates as the operation continued. Trump, speaking with his head of security on the line, "Do whatever it takes to ensure Musk's team gets out. We have the intelligence now, we can't afford to lose them. If they're under threat, get them out by any means necessary." Head of security, calmly, "Understood, sir. The extraction teams are in position. We'll have boots on the ground in Geneva shortly." In the extraction room, Musk's team reached the rear corridor, but the guards were already closing in. It was a tense few moments as the team moved quickly to navigate the stairwell. One of the team members, the youngest, a field agent from Europe, paused for a split second, looking back. They could hear the sounds of pursuit growing louder. "Team member, quietly, we've got incoming. We need to make this last stretch, or we won't make it out." Musk, speaking through his earpiece, voice urgent, "You're almost there. Keep moving. I'm sending the drone footage to the extraction team. They'll cover you from above." Musk hit a few more keys, triggering the drones hovering in the air above the facility. The small surveillance drones, equipped with thermal imaging and silent engines, darted across the city, positioning themselves strategically around the building. Musk could see everything: the guards, the escape routes, and his team's movements. It was all about timing now. In Geneva, the escape was nearly complete. The team was close to the building's outer perimeter, but they had one final challenge: getting past the heavily armed guards positioned at the main gates. Musk had already arranged for backup. A military extraction team was inbound, but the weight felt unbearable. The seconds dragged on as the guards drew nearer. "Team member, urgently, we need a distraction. Can you give us anything?" Musk quickly scanned the footage from the drones, his mind working rapidly. He had one shot. He activated the drones to initiate a distraction, a series of controlled flashes and noise triggers designed to momentarily confuse the guards. As the distraction took hold, Musk's team broke into a sprint, charging toward the perimeter gate. They reached it just as the backup team arrived, moving in with precision. The sound of helicopters filled the air, their rotors whirling as they hovered above the site, watching for any signs of danger. Musk, speaking into the earpiece, relieved, "You're clear. Move to the extraction point." Now, the team scrambled toward the helicopters, the powerful machines roaring to life as they prepared for takeoff. Musk's drones hovered overhead, keeping watch as they flew away from the chaos below. Trump, watching the live footage on his monitor, voice calm but with a sense of triumph, "They made it. I knew they would. We've got the data." Trump allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction. The operation had been a success, but this wasn't the end. They now had the intelligence they needed, and the group responsible for the attack had been exposed. This was just the beginning of a larger operation to dismantle the network and ensure the safety of the nation. Trump, speaking to his team, "Get me the details on the data. I want to know everything we've just uncovered." Communications director, nodding, "We've already started processing it, sir. It's big. There's a network, and they're not just targeting you. They've infiltrated global systems from finance to defense. This could go deeper than we thought. Back in Washington, Musk felt a wave of relief wash over him. They had successfully extracted the data. But even though the immediate threat was over, he knew this wasn't the end of the road. The network they had uncovered was only a small part of the larger web. They had dismantled one piece, but the rest of the puzzle remained hidden. Musk, to himself, this is just the beginning. The immediate threat had been neutralized, but the data that Musk's team had retrieved from the encrypted server in Geneva was only the beginning. The files they uncovered were a treasure trove of intelligence. Though fragmented, they hinted at something far more dangerous. A global network, its roots spread deep into financial markets, political systems, and military operations, all underpinned by covert operations designed to destabilize governments and control resources. Musk sat at a command center, surrounded by monitors displaying encrypted files, satellite feeds, and real-time data from every angle. His team of cybersecurity experts had begun to sift through the files, trying to piece together the full scope of the network's operations. Every detail mattered. The information they had could change the course of history, but only if they could understand the extent of the network's reach. Musk, focused, speaking into a mic, "Keep looking. We need to know how far this goes. If this network has infiltrated the financial sector and defense systems, we need to act fast. We can't wait for the full analysis. We need to move on this now." One of his top analysts, a sharp-minded woman named Claire, turned to him with a concerned look. "Claire," hesitating, "we've found some troubling information. It's not just political instability they're aiming for, there are larger, more dangerous goals at play. They've been orchestrating movements in several regions, trying to manipulate economies and destabilize entire governments." Musk's jaw tightened. He knew that things had gone far beyond a simple attack on Trump. Whoever was behind this had global ambitions. They weren't just targeting high-profile figures, they were trying to control entire nations. Musk, grimly, "Give me the details." Claire turned her screen to face him, showing a map of international financial hubs, each marked with cryptic codes and symbols. These weren't just random locations, they were key sites of power. Military bases, major financial institutions, high-ranking political offices. Claire, pointing to the map, "These are the places they've targeted, not just in the past few months, but over the past year. They've been laying the groundwork for a complete destabilization of global economies. And some of these movements, they're funding paramilitary groups, and we've got evidence they've been working with organized crime syndicates." Musk, shaking his head, "That's too coordinated to be just a political play. This is a massive undertaking. Whoever is behind this has resources we can't even fathom." Claire nodded, her fingers typing rapidly as she pulled up more files. One of the documents had an encrypted list of names, high-profile individuals involved in shady business dealings, politicians from various countries who had been compromised, and corporate leaders who were under the thumb of this mysterious network. The scale of it was staggering. Claire, slightly panicked, "Elon, they've been operating under the radar. They've got connections in major corporations, and they've even managed to infiltrate defense contractors. They have access to weapons, tech, and influence on a global scale." Musk stared at the screen, his thoughts racing. This wasn't just an enemy they were fighting. This was a well-oiled machine, one that had infiltrated the highest levels of power. To take them down, they would need more than just firepower, they would need a strategy that outsmarted their opponents at every turn. Musk, calmly, "This isn't just a tech problem. This is about intelligence. We need to get the best minds in the world on this. Let's bring in some allies, people who can move fast, intelligence agencies, hackers, anyone who can help us find the core of this network." Meanwhile, back in Washington, Trump was meeting with his senior advisors. The success of the initial operation to extract the data from Geneva was a significant win, but the road ahead was fraught with challenges. They had the information, but the question remained: what to do with it? The shadowy network was vast, and dismantling it would require more than just quick moves. It would require calculated risks and partnerships that could prove invaluable. Trump sat at the head of the table, his expression hard as he listened to the updates. The data from Musk's team had provided some answers, but it had also raised more questions. Trump, addressing his team, this network's deep. It's got fingers in everything: politics, defense, finance. We can't go at this half-heartedly. We need to hit them hard with everything we've got. He turned to his intelligence director, a seasoned veteran with decades of experience. Trump, leaning forward, voice low, what are the options? Can we trace the leaders behind this? Do we have any idea who's funding this operation? The intelligence director paused, his fingers drumming on the table as he reviewed the files. The task was daunting, and the complexity of the situation was not lost on him. Intelligence director, looking up, we've traced some of the financial transactions, but it's like following a trail of smoke. The money is being funneled through various shell companies, and there are dead drops all over the world. But we do have one lead, a name that keeps popping up in these files. His name is Anton Volkov. He's a Russian oligarch with ties to multiple international networks. Trump's eyes narrowed. The name Volkov sounded familiar, a name tied to dirty money, corrupt dealings, and high-level politics. He had heard whispers of Volkov's influence before, but this was the first time it was tied directly to an operation like this. Trump, coldly: Volkov, get me everything we have on him. This could be our key. Meanwhile, across the world in Europe, Musk's team was continuing its investigation into the global network. Using the data extracted from the server, they began connecting the dots, discovering more about the shadowy figures pulling the strings. Musk's mind raced as he reviewed encrypted communications from the various factions involved. What he saw was even worse than he had imagined. One of the figures on the list, Anton Volkov, was at the center of everything. He wasn't just a player in the game, he was the mastermind. Musk felt a chill as he realized that Volkov's influence stretched far beyond what anyone had anticipated. Volkov's network had infiltrated not only the political and financial worlds but also military contractors. The weapons they had access to, the political power they could wield, made them a formidable opponent. Musk, speaking to his team, Volkov's the one behind this. He's the key to everything. We've got to get to him before he can move his pieces again. We've been tracking the wrong part of this network. It's all about him. Back in Washington, Trump was preparing for his next move. He knew that taking down Volkov wouldn't be easy. The Russian oligarch had friends in high places, people who could shield him from the law, even people within the intelligence agencies themselves. But Trump was no stranger to high-stakes battles. He had faced down powerful adversaries before, and he wasn't about to back down now. Trump, speaking to his inner circle, we're going after Volkov, and we're going after him hard. I want every resource we have to focus on bringing him down. This is the fight of our lives. The room was silent as Trump's words sunk in. Everyone knew that Volkov was no ordinary target. Taking him down would require an unprecedented level of coordination. But Trump was resolute. He had never been more determined in his life. Trump, with finality, get me everything we have on Volkov. I want to know where he is, who he's talking to, and what he's planning. We're going to shut him down. Hours later, the operation to locate Anton Volkov was in full swing. Musk's tech team had begun tracking Volkov's financial and communication activity, while Trump's intelligence teams worked to intercept his movements and connections. The walls were closing in on Volkov, but he wasn't without resources. He had built his empire with careful precision, and he knew that if he could just keep one step ahead, he could continue pulling the strings from the shadows. But for once, Volkov's luck seemed to be running out. The information was coming in fast now. His safe houses, his contacts, and most importantly, his plans. The global network that had been hiding in the shadows for so long was about to be exposed, and Musk, Trump, and their teams were determined to bring it down. The heat was intensifying. With every passing minute, the pieces of the puzzle were falling into place. Musk's team had been working around the clock, and the intelligence was starting to flow. Anton Volkov's movements were being tracked with precision. The web he had spent years building, both financial and political, was starting to crumble. But Volkov wasn't someone who would go down quietly. He had deep connections in both the Russian underworld and elite circles of international power. For Musk, Trump, and their teams, the stakes couldn't have been higher. Musk, speaking through an encrypted channel to Trump, We've traced Volkov to an estate in the Swiss Alps. It's heavily fortified. There's no easy way in. Trump, gritting his teeth on the other end of the line, I'm not looking for easy, Musk. I'm looking for results. Give me the coordinates. We're going to finish this. Musk's eyes narrowed as he pulled up the live feed from his satellite surveillance. The estate where Volkov was believed to be hiding was nestled deep in the mountains, surrounded by a private security force, encrypted communication channels, and sophisticated defense systems. If they were going to extract Volkov, they would need a precise and calculated plan. And it needed to be executed without delay. In Washington, Trump gathered his senior military advisors, his inner circle, and key intelligence officers. The operation in Geneva had already provided them with the crucial data, but bringing down Volkov required more than just intelligence. It would take muscle. As Trump surveyed the faces of the people in the room, he felt a familiar rush of determination. This was what he did best, leading from the front and pushing the boundaries when it came to the safety of his country. Trump, speaking to the room with authority, "This is it. We know where he is, and we're going to hit him hard. This is no longer about just protecting me, it's about protecting every American and every ally who's been caught in his crosshairs. We'll have no choice but to move fast." Military advisor, nodding firmly, "We're coordinating with our European allies. We've secured air support, extraction teams, and cyber assets to neutralize Volkov's defenses. We'll take him down and ensure that his entire network is dismantled." Trump, leaning forward, intensity in his voice, "This isn't just about one man. This is about sending a message to every rogue state, every criminal syndicate, every terrorist group thinking they can disrupt our way of life. We don't back down. And we don't negotiate with terrorists." The room hummed with purpose. Everyone knew that Trump's words weren't just bravado, they were a battle cry, a declaration that the US would take the necessary steps to protect its citizens, its interests, and its allies. The operation was moving forward, and nothing would stand in their way. Back in the Swiss Alps, the team preparing to take down Volkov was already in motion. Musk had worked with his European allies to secure a joint task force that would infiltrate the estate, extract Volkov, and neutralize any resistance. The plan was a blend of precision and stealth: get in, get out, and dismantle Volkov's operations once and for all. Musk, speaking to his European team on the ground, "We're going in quiet, no noise. I don't need to remind you how important this is. Get Volkov, disable his security systems, and make sure no data is left behind. We're playing for keeps." The team on the ground was well prepared. Special Forces operatives from multiple countries had been handpicked for this mission. They were the best of the best, trained to infiltrate, execute, and retreat without leaving a trace. Musk watched the live feeds, his mind constantly analyzing the information coming in. This wasn't just about taking down a criminal, this was about preventing a global catastrophe. In the heart of the Alps, the team moved like shadows through the dense forest surrounding Volkov's estate. They were silent, calculating each step as they approached the heavily guarded compound. The estate was built into the side of the mountain, with multiple layers of security: cameras, infrared sensors, motion detectors. Musk's drones had already mapped out the area, ensuring that the team knew where every guard was stationed, where every blind spot existed. "Lead team member," whispering into the mic, "we're approaching the perimeter. No sign of movement. Proceeding to the west gate." Musk, focused, eyes glued to the screen, "Keep it quiet. Don't engage unless you absolutely have to. Remember, Volkov is the priority." The compound's exterior was heavily fortified, but the team knew that their best chance was to get inside without alerting the main security systems. The key was to disable the communications grid that Volkov's people relied on. If they could blind the estate's security, they would have a window of opportunity. The lead team member pulled out a small, portable jammer, which would disrupt the estate's communications long enough to make their move. With careful precision, they planted it near one of the security hubs. "Lead team member, softly, jammers in place. Communications disabled. We've got a 10-minute window." Musk's team began moving swiftly, their movements like clockwork as they approached the main building. The estate's security system was formidable, but they had the element of surprise on their side. They had to get to Volkov's location, extract him, and get out before the backup systems came online. Back in Washington, Trump watched the operation unfold on a massive screen in the secure operations room. He was calm, but his eyes never left the footage from the Alps. The mission was in full swing, and now all that remained was to execute it flawlessly. Trump, quietly, to his senior staff, "We've got this. We're one step away from ending this." In the Swiss Alps, the tension was rising. Musk's team had breached the building's interior, and now they were making their way to Volkov's private chambers. The estate was silent, but the danger was palpable. Volkov was well protected, and he knew how to cover his tracks. If he was anywhere in the compound, he'd be deep inside, surrounded by layers of security. But Musk's team had already anticipated his moves. Musk, through the comms, voice steady, "Keep moving. You're close. Stay alert." As they neared Volkov's private office, the team spread out, checking every room, every corner. The walls were lined with monitors showing data streams, financial reports, and communication logs. Everything Volkov had built, every corrupt deal and shadowy connection, was stored right here. Team member, whispering, holding up a file, "We've got the goods. These files could bring down half the governments in Europe." Musk, nodding, "No time for that. We've got to find Volkov." As the team moved through the corridors, one of the operatives spotted a door at the end of the hallway. It was reinforced with heavy steel bars blocking the way. But there was no mistake. The movement inside, the faint sound of voices, told them that this was it. Lead team member, in a low voice, "This is it. He's here." They breached the door, moving quickly into the room. And there he was, Anton Volkov, sitting behind a large desk, a glass of whiskey in his hand, seemingly unfazed by the intrusion. His cold eyes met theirs, and for a split second, there was a moment of tense silence. Volkov, calmly, his voice low, "You really think you can take me down that easily? You're out of your depth." Musk's operative was already moving toward him, but Volkov held up his hand, signaling that he wasn't interested in a fight. Volkov, scoffing, "You think this data you've stolen is the end? You've exposed a fraction of the system. You're too late." Musk, calm but deadly serious, "This is where it ends, Volkov. You're not in control anymore." Volkov's smirk faded, and in that moment, Musk knew that this confrontation would end one way. Volkov would either be brought to justice or disappear forever. Trump, watching the live footage, voice resolute, "End this, Musk. He doesn't get to walk away."